Hey guys, welcome to the Sound Design channel. I'm François from Production Music Live. Today we are going to remake another sound from Consciousness. It's going to be this answer Pluck sound here with Wavetable. Let's take a look at this one here. It has quite a bit in the effect chain going on. So I'm duplicating this one and we are going to walk through it one by one to take a look at how it's set up. And I have all the effects here turned off for now, and we're just looking at Wavetable. This is the MIDI information we are playing. Wavetable, and then you deactivate oscillator 1, you deactivate the sub oscillator, you activate oscillator 2. You can also do that in oscillator 1. That was just a workflow thing here. And then as a foundation of the sound, we need a pulse wave type thing. It needs to be like screwed up somehow. So I'm using this pulse dual thing here, and I'm looking for a good position in the wavetable. And notice that I'm also applying this effect mode modern here on the sound as well. And that's set to 38% in the warping if I play around with this. You get these interesting phase effects there. And I thought at 38% it sounded pretty good. And also this one here sounds pretty good at 46. Before we go on, there's still some modulation going on this sound. The filter is active. I'm quickly deactivating it so we get more to the raw sound of this and you can replicate that. What's needed in the basic setup? You have the pulse dual, you set it to modern, you set it to warp 38%, and you set the wavetable position to 46%, and then you set it in unison, you set it to 2 voices and to an amount of 13% down here. If you would bring that up, it would start sounding detuned. So we just want a little bit of this. So I'm keeping that at 13%, and as mentioned, set the voices here to 2 voices so you have them sitting right next to one another. And it's currently set to mono, but we're not really overlapping notes, so it's not that important. And the amplifier shape looks like this at the moment. Attack 6 milliseconds, decay 174 milliseconds, sustain minus 46 decibels, and 300 milliseconds of release time. So this is the basic sound. And now you still want to modulate the filter on top of that. That's why you're going to envelope number 2. And you're setting it up in a way where you're saying, hey, very short attack, 0.1 milliseconds, then a decay time of 431 milliseconds, coming back from the top part of the transient of the sound, and then a release time of 61 milliseconds. Then you go to the matrix, click on the filter frequency here, and then you assign envelope number 2 to the filter frequency. Set it to 70%. We want to apply envelope number 2, 70% on the movement of our filter. And now we need to activate the filter here in the middle and set it to minus 12 decibels per octave instead of 24. And then select the filter type SMP, which then allows us to put in some overdrive. But first set the frequency of the filter to 93 Hertz. And notice how a little bit of drive is added in here if I'm setting this to 0. We are just beefing up the sound. So at 9 decibels 75, and then we have a resonance of 16% applied on top of that. If we increase that, just to exaggerate the effect a bit, I just want 16% to the sound. So this is our basic sound setup for the source. All right, so let's take a look at the effects here behind the sound. The first one is an overdrive from the Ableton Audio Effects. If I turn it on and exaggerate it a bit. So we're adding in some beef in the lower mids here at 368 with 3.69, a drive of 37, tone at 50, dynamics at 50, and dry wet 2. to 17. Just a bit of that effect. The next one is super important. It's the phaser flanger from the Ableton effects here. We are using it in the phaser mode, and phasers are, maybe you know them from the Pioneer DJ mixers or something. They go through the frequency spectrum, but I want to fix it at a certain point. That's why I'm putting the amount all the way down. If it's a bit up, you can see how it moves around here. But I want to fix it at a certain frequency, and that is 270. And set the notches to 11. We are going to look at it in a second. Spread to 48, blend to 0.95, and set it to note, and rate 2, and feedback 31, and warmth 48, and dry wet 81. So let's play around with it now. It adds this nice phaser effect to the sound. If we move around with the frequency here. So I'm not really looking for those high frequencies. That's why I'm setting it to 270 Hertz here and have it revolve around that frequency with 11 notches. You can also increase the notches here. Or have less. But I thought it sounded good at 11 notches. That's the phaser setup here, and let's go over to two EQs. One is sort of giving the overall shape to the sound, and one is a bit more emphasizing on the right frequencies. Let's look at the second one first, and that one has a bell curve at 938 Hertz here with a gain of 8 decibels and a Q of 0.52. We have a bit of a low cut here at 100 Hertz, and we have another bell curve here notching out at roughly 2K with -7 decibels and a Q of 0.1. So this is really adding some character to the sound. If I A/B this quickly, it's really emphasizing on this frequency here and taking off this one. Just also a bit too resonant. Okay, and this one here is giving it this overall movement, rolling off some more low end, rolling off some more high end to leave room for other elements in the mix, and taking off some of the boxy frequencies around 220. And rolling off some of that. So the low end is sitting at 58 here, this one here is sitting at 220, and this one here is sitting at 4.5 kilohertz. Next up is a compressor gluing our sound together here. Let's A/B this one quickly. It's really taking off some of these resonant and super powerful parts, especially in the lower notes. If you listen to the lowest one here. It really adjusts the overall gain of those single elements better. So we have an attack of 0.3, release of 0.4, ratio of 10:1, threshold at -25 decibels, makeup at 5 decibels, and dry wets to 61. So it's set in parallel mode. And remember that the wavetable is sitting at -9 decibels output volume. So that's kind of important with this threshold here. Okay, on top of that, we are adding a slap delay with the delay here. If you look for slap, it's a preset from the delay slide slap. Dry wet is at 26, feedback at 15%, and I have it at 1:1, left and right. Repitch mode, ping pong mode activated, and the filter is kind of set at 2 kilohertz with a width of almost 5. And now the last one is the Ambience Reverb on this sound. I'm still using a send reverb later, but I'm kind of giving the sound a bit of characteristic with a decay time of 1 second. Dry wet at 37%. You could also make it a bit shorter in the decay time here. But let's leave it at 1.22 and the size is at 20%, stereo is at 53, and notice how we are letting more input through here and also not really rolling off a lot of stuff, but we set the diffuse to 3 decibels. So these are the effects on the sound, and now all of this goes into this lead group, and the lead group for the most part has a send reverb active. So let's actually quickly open up the return channels, activate this whole lead here with the convolution reverb is kind of the most important one. So I'm blending that in with the single sound quickly. It's sitting at -11, and that's kind of the overall reverb experience of the full track. So let's ignore all the other ones. They're not that important, but this one here is important. It's a large shimmer plate and it's the hybrid reverb. So if we put large shimmer, then you would find the hybrid reverb and you drag that in. That's the effect. And you have 11 seconds of decay time. You roll off some of the low end here, have it set up dry wet all the way. And then you roll off some more low end behind the reverb and some high end. Add a little bit of saturation, just slightly saturating the reverb signal. And then we have a compressor behind that with a ratio of 4:1 and a threshold of -35. The compressor will sort of even it more out here in this case and making sure we have a more dominant tail of that reverb. And the last effect here is a sidechain to the sound itself. So whenever these notes are playing, we are applying a bit less send reverb on that sound. Together. All right, so there we have it. That's our sound put together with Wavetable and a bunch of Ableton effects here. Super interesting with this phaser characteristic to it. I'm also putting it into the Wavetable preset pack in the link in the description below this video. If you want to check out this project file, we have a version with slightly different harmonies and melodies and a link in the description as well. Feel free to comment what you want to see next. Subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and I hope to see you next time.